The human race's desire for discovery has led us to some incredible places, and most of them aren't on Earth. On September 5th, 1977, NASA's Voyager 1 space probe was launched into space with the mission to gather information about our solar system. And one of its biggest discoveries was volcanic activity on one of Jupiter's moons. It was only meant to last 5 years, but 40 years later, and this Voyager is still boldly going where no man has gone before. Scientists turned off its cameras back in 1980 to conserve energy, but turned them back on February 14th, 1990 to capture the only photo of our solar system viewed from the outside. Voyager was also equipped with a gold-plated record to introduce humans to alien life forms. It has music from Mozart and Chuck Berry, a speech by US President Jimmy Carter, brainwaves, and even a baby crying. In 2004, it left our solar system and officially entered interstellar space in August of 2012. It's still in contact with NASA today and could last another 10 to 20 years before it runs out of power. And who knows what it's gonna find during that time? Maybe it'll find bald aliens. I know I'm not alone. India's Mangalyaan space probe was launched on November 5th of 2013 as part of the Mars Orbiter mission, also known as MOM. It was India's official entry into interplanetary space exploration. The probe went into orbit around Mars on September 24th, 2014, and was the first space probe to reach Mars orbit from an Asian nation. And not only that, it was the first country to do it on its first try. MOM is studying Mars' surface and methane in the atmosphere. And rather than trying to do everything, the craft was designed to do important research in a few key areas. India's operation is the cheapest interplanetary mission ever and only costs $74 million. Now that might seem like a lot to you, but it's nothing compared to NASA's Maven Mars Orbiter, which cost a staggering $671 million. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi pointed out that it's even less than Hollywood spent making the movie Gravity, and they didn't even leave Earth. You hear that, Hollywood? Take a page from India. They know what's up. The Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission, also known as TRMM, was a joint mission between NASA and JAXA, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, that was launched on November 27, 1997. TRMM stopped collecting data on April 8, 2015, which is pretty impressive since it was only designed to last 3 years. But going to space isn't all about finding aliens. Taking a very distant look at our planet can actually help us understand just what is going on Earth. And TRMM did just that. Over its 17 years in service, it created a global data set of tropical rainfall and lightning and set new measurement standards. It was equipped with 5 instruments, 3 of which were sensors that measured rainfall. This led to more advanced research on the evolution and structure of cyclones, lightning storms, and Earth's climate, all of which are used to forecast weather and help us better prepare for droughts and floods. Spam in a can was the nickname given to astronauts who took part in NASA's Mercury program, which were the first manned US missions to go to space. They got the nickname because the ships were pretty much all automated and the astronauts were more or less just along for the ride. That is, until astronaut Gordon Cooper manned the program's final mission on the Mercury Atlas 9. The ship was launched into orbit on May 15, 1963, and all was going fine until the 19th orbit when the electrical system started to fail. And I would imagine you don't want anything failing, especially electrical, when you're in space. By the 21st orbit, all the automatic stabilization and control systems had just stopped working, and the ship started to fill up with carbon dioxide. In case you didn't know, that's not good for humans. Cooper had to act quickly and manually calculate his re-entry into Earth. Manually! And all that he had was a wristwatch and the stars to figure out his location. But Cooper was one heck of an astronaut because not only did he survive, but he also performed the most accurate landing of the program. Like its name suggests, the Viking mission set out to conquer the great unknown of space. Viking 1 was launched on August 20th, 1975, and almost a year later, on July 20th, 1976, it officially became the first spacecraft to successfully land on Mars, with Viking 2 joining the party on September 3rd. The Vikings orbited Mars, mapping 97% of the planet, and took over 50,000 high-resolution photos of its landscape. We've gotten used to seeing pictures of the red planet from the Mars rover, but it was Viking 1 that transmitted the first ever photos taken on the ground on Mars. Between the two, they took over 4,500 close-up photos of the surface. The probes were able to perform biological tests of the Martian soil for signs of life, and took the first ever measurements of Mars's atmosphere, which are still being analyzed today. The Viking missions were able to lay the groundwork for NASA's Journey to Mars program. The SpaceShipOne launched on June 4th, 2004, becoming the first private spacecraft to ever leave Earth's atmosphere and reach the edges of space. Space tourism has been in development for years, and SpaceShipOne was a major stepping stone to making the ultimate getaway vacation a reality. It was designed and built by the private company Scaled Composites, which is owned by Burt Rutten, an aerospace designer, and was largely financed by Microsoft co-founder and billionaire Paul Allen. It was also the first to have a non-government crew, and was piloted by civilian test pilot Mike Melville along with 2 other passengers. And Melville actually became the first commercially licensed astronaut. It flew 62.5 miles above Earth's surface, reaching suborbital space for about 3 minutes before returning to Earth. SpaceShipOne was even reusable and was able to fly 2 more flights on September 29th and October 4th. As cool as this is, I still would never board one of these things because I'm sure they've got most of the technology down, but all it takes is one small error and you're just space junk. On March 18, 1965, Alexei Leonov became the first man to walk in space, beating the US by 3 months. Leonov was only attached to his ship, the Voskhod, with a 16-foot cable 1,553 miles above Earth. But after a couple of minutes, Leonov's suit started to expand and got so big that he couldn't fit back through the airlock. Oh, nightmare realized! He managed to deflate his suit enough to get back inside with his commander, but when they prepared for re-entry, the ship filled with dangerous levels of oxygen and the controls stopped working. Not exactly something you want to happen when returning to Earth. When they tried to do it manually, the landing capsule didn't separate properly and they were sent spinning out of control, hurtling back to Earth. But amazingly, they survived the landing, but were way off course and spent 2 nights freezing in the middle of the Siberian forest, trying not to get eaten by wolves. But miraculously, they survived, and probably thankful to have solid ground to walk on. While many countries have been in competition to conquer space, the most complex and successful project to ever be undertaken in space is the International Space Station. The ISS is a joint project between United States, Russia, Europe, Japan, and Canada. The first section of the station was Russia's Zarya module that was launched in 1998. Since then, it has been built in orbit piece by piece over the last nearly 20 years. It's almost as big as a football field with 2 bathrooms and a gym. Really, 2 bathrooms for an entire space station? Somebody's gonna poop their pants. The ISS can be seen from Earth with the naked eye and is in low orbit. It has an altitude of about 248 miles and takes 90 minutes to travel around Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. It functions as a satellite, a technology lab, and an astronomical, environmental, and geological observatory. It has been manned round the clock since 2000, and in 2015 it was actually expanded to prepare for commercial space travel, which is expected to begin soon. The space age officially began on October 4th, 1957, when the Soviet Union successfully launched Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite to go into Earth's orbit. It was basically a big aluminum ball with long antennas that weighed 184 pounds and was 22 inches in diameter and traveled at 18,000 miles per hour, and it was able to circle Earth in just over an hour and a half. The Russian satellite was bigger and more advanced than American technology, which was still a few months from being launched, and led to panic that the Soviets would start using the technology for military purposes. Not long after that, NASA was formed. Sputnik lasted just over 3 months in orbit, but it paved the way for the modern world we know, where nearly all of our technology, cell phones, Wi-Fi, and weather forecasts depend on satellites. In Russian space, satellites transmit you. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union weren't only on the brink of nuclear war, they were also neck to neck in the space race. On July 20th, 1969, that race was over when America put the first man on the moon. The moment American astronaut Neil Armstrong first set foot on the moon was broadcast on TV and was watched by an estimated 530 million people around the world. The moon landing was part of the Apollo program, which was set out by President John F. Kennedy, who in 1961 announced the goal of getting a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. Now, the program had a number of setbacks and tragedies, including the deaths of 3 astronauts when the cabin of Apollo 1 caught fire during a test launch. But 6 more moon landings followed Apollo 11, with the last in 1972. The missions actually brought back lunar samples and performed experiments on the soil, solar winds, and magnetic fields. And that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, hit that like button. Let me know you care. On the right, you'll find 2 of my most recent videos that you can go to right now if you want more. And subscribe, because I'll have a brand new video for you tomorrow at 3 Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you then.